Welcome to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida's new and exciting weekly radio show. A show focused on businesses in Bay and surrounding counties. Business Between the Lines is hosted by Christy Kirkland, a business accelerator with Answer Marketing, and co-hosted by Jason Price, a video guru with Riplify Media.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, Christy.
And welcome back, everyone, to Northwest Florida's Business Between the Lines show. We have an amazing guest. Do I say that? I say that a lot.
A little bit.
Yeah. So you guys might, if you've seen some of our past shows, which I hope you have, you might recognize our next guest. It's Karen White. We had her before. And
you know a guest is really good whenever they're back on the show.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Just 1 month later, we're like, we didn't want to wait. We learned so much from her segment, and there was so much more that she had to offer. We didn't want to wait, and we did. We learned quite a bit. So you got to make sure that you watch that past show because, hey, it's packed with value.
Yeah. So obviously me being in the room and then re-watching the show, I kept everything that I could to heart of what, Karen was sharing, and then I actually got the chance of putting it into practice. So I had a situation recently where I had a meeting with a client, and if you watched that last show, remember Karen was talking about having a collaborative mindset and being aware of the other person's mindset. I was aware that both of us had a collaborative mindset, and they had said, can we meet around this time? And then later on, I had confirmed it. Later on, I wanted to change the time. So then I approached them over text, and I said, hey, I remember you said around this time. Would that work better, or would this time work better? This time being the time that was more ideal for me.
That we really wanted.
And they were like, oh, sure, whatever works for you. And I was like, well, this time would be perfect. Thank you.
So we have all of that knowledge that we gained from that one, and so we brought her back, and stay tuned because we are going to have a whole nother plethora of tips and techniques that you can take in your communication world. We'll be right back. Hey, Jason.
Hey, Christy.
Hey,
Karen.
Hey. And welcome back. And you guys, welcome back to Business Between the Line, Northwest Florida's newest radio show. Well, we're like past the 10 episodes, so we're not so new anymore.
Yeah,
we're
we're around,
We're just the greatest.
We are. Oh, that's why we have her back again. So if you guys have watched her episode back in June, she talked about communication and negotiations with her on the basis that her new company was founded, which is Messy is Wonderful. And we all took away a ton of tips and highlights, and Jason put it right into play and worked with his magic with one of his clients and got the negotiation to go the way that he wanted, but at a mutually benefit to both sides were happy.
My only regret, and I said this during the episode, is the week that we recorded that episode, I bought a car the weekend before, and I should have bought it the weekend after. I would have saved me some money.
Right.
And they probably would have been happy about it, too.
They would have.
So as we ran out of time last time, and we wanted more, we're not even going to really get into all of the greatness and wonderfulness that is Karen White. We're just going to let her just share some more information for us.
All right. Awesome.
Let's roll.
My favorite topic.
Right.
So today I want to talk about communication because it's a very well-used term, but not always well understood.
Right.
I think sometimes we throw the word communication as a fix. Well, if we just had better communication, things would be fixed. True, but what does that really mean? So I got to thinking, what are the reasons we communicate? If you remember when I talked last time, mindset is kind of my thing, my starting place. So when you start from a place of awareness, things get better. So as I thought about communication, I thought, what are the purposes for which we communicate? And I think there are 5 that we probably would all agree on, and then 1 that we don't think about too often. So the 5 that I think we would probably all easily agree: we communicate to inform, we communicate to question, we communicate to educate, and I think informing and educating are slightly different. We communicate to advocate, and then we also communicate to persuade. And on the unhealthy end of that spectrum would be manipulate.
Yeah.
So I think those are probably pretty fairly easily agreed. Those are reasons that we communicate. There's one that I think we probably forget about, and that is communicating to connect. If the purpose of your communication is to connect with your clients, with your family members, with your counterparties, it's a different energy than if you purpose of negotiation, communication is to persuade or manipulate. So thinking about that, I thought, why is that important? Why is connection important? Well, because it's how we build community. We cannot build community without connection. We cannot build, in my opinion, strong businesses without connection. We don't build strong teams. We don't build strong families. So if we want to break it down, what's one thing we could do to improve things? We would focus on improving, building, and strengthening our connections.
Right.
What's a good way to do that? Focus on our communication. So that's why I think communication is so important.
It is. And it's the one thing that most of us struggle at. Even people that think they're good at it, it's like, no, most people railroad or talk over other people, and they think, I'm in this to get my message across, and they think they're communicating well because they're blowing your mind with all of their wealth of knowledge and stuff, but all they're doing is just steamrolling you with that. And then on the flip side, every time I talk with someone, I started noticing this, and I think it was from your last show, just paying attention to the way that we talk and the way that we say things and how we're received on the other end. I change my volume when I'm talking, and even the pitch, kind of, how some people say drop an octave. And it's really, when I was getting my coffee this morning and I was thanking them, my voice was just this very young girl, super sweet, thank you so much. And I was like, that didn't sound like me. The volume was different.
But it matched the person you were speaking with.
Right. And I just wanted to convey all sincerity that I was thanking them. But there's so many nuances to communication. We're going to need you again. No.
Absolutely. There's lots of things about COVID that have been difficult. One of the things that I personally think has been beneficial is I think it's focused us on communication, how important it is. And it's also, I think, maybe shown us that we can communicate in different ways.
Right.
We may have been really used to doing one-on-ones, and that was where we felt comfortable, and we had to stop doing that. So how do we continue to communicate on Zoom and other things? Well, we figured it out. Communication is important. So I think that's great. So I have two kind of tips that I would give you.
Let's do it.
That's good.
There's two things that I think make great communication. The first one is asking good questions. And I'm not going to talk about that one. Because I want to talk about the prerequisite to asking good questions. And that is learning to be a mindful listener. Because if you have great questions,
ears, one mouth.
Yeah.
you have great questions, but you don't follow through with good listening, then it doesn't matter how good your questions
You're just
are.
asking that question, you're like, they're giving their answer, you're like, man, that was such a good question I asked. I'm such a good question asker. I'm so good at communication.
Meanwhile, you're back in the not so good.
Not
Okay, so there's three things that we normally think about with listening. One is passive listening. And passive listening has a place. Our listeners right now
in the break.
are passive listening. They are passively listening to us. There is a place for that in communication. Then we often think of active listening, and that's what I was always taught. Active listening, that shows the other party that you are actively involved. So there are some techniques, mirroring,
repeating what they
repeating back. I'll share a little tip. I tend to get really irritated when people just repeat back to me, but I can tell that they weren't.
They're just taking the last word that you said and saying that instead of the gist
because they watched
of what
some
you're
YouTube
saying.
video pro tip on it one day.
Right. They weren't mindfully listening.
Right.
Mindful listening takes us from listening to respond to listening to understand.
Right.
And that is the key.
And repeating back to them something that you heard to make sure you understood it in the correct way is
Maybe
a
even
good
repeating
way
it
to
back
repeat
in your
it.
own words. And
Yeah.
Absolutely.
let me make sure I'm understanding this right. Is this what you're going for?
And here's how you'll be able to do that well. If you are mindfully listening. And mindful listening means I am aware what's happening in me as I'm listening. Am I being triggered by something that someone else is saying? Has my mind just wandered off to vacation when this person started to talk? Am I annoyed and irritated? If you're not mindful of those things, it impacts how you listen. When you can be mindful of those things, how this is happening in me, you also get more aware of what's happening with the other party. Did their eyes just glaze over? How are they listening? And when those things come together, and then you employ the skills of active listening, the techniques of repeating back and making sure I understand, then you are an effective listener, and that's really the goal, right?
That's where we want to
If we
be.
become effective listeners, then we are building connection, because who doesn't like to be listened to?
Right. And that goes back to one of our past shows that we just recorded not too long ago, where we had Jim Hagan with a bagel maker, and he was talking about that with his employees coming to them or coming to him, and they were like, I need a raise. It wasn't about the raise. It was about something that in their life that had changed that made it necessary to find something else, to make this happen, and that was their solution. And instead of just saying, okay, well, we don't have it right now, or we do have it right now, or giving them or not giving them, he went back to why and asked the question to listen to, how can I really solve this for you? What's the real situation? Why you're asking this question? And he's got some of the best employees that really enjoy working with him because of that.
Absolutely. And this is so important, such an important skill, that my company is doing a free masterclass on communication on July 15th, 7 p.m. Central Time. It's free.
This week.
It's
This
free.
week, Thursday.
It's free.
No dollar bills, y'all.
But you must be registered. And
Okay.
here's why you need to register. Because from those who register and attend, I'm going to pick 3 winners who will get 30 minutes free coaching with me on a communication issue.
Wow.
Ooh.
And if
That's
you
a value
listen to
drop.
any of these shows, you know that at that last one, that 10-minute one that we had, all those tips that we got out of that was just 10 minutes. You're going to get 30 one-on-one. Dude, sign up now. Where do I sign up?
bit.ly/messy masterclass sign up.
Boom.
And we will repeat that again. So make sure you stay tuned. Jason and I will be right back, and we will share some more information on communication and some more valuable tips. Thank you, Karen, for sharing this with us.
Thanks for letting me come back.
Live and local sports, high school sports, college football, the NFL, the Atlanta Braves, the Dan Patrick Show, the Herd with Colin Cowherd, the James Hale Show, the Coach's Daughter Show. Sports, we cover it all. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, Christy.
And welcome back, everyone, to ESPN Northwest Florida's Business Between the Lines. We just got through with another great session with Karen White.
Part 2.
Part 2, and there's probably like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dozen. Yeah.
She'll probably be back later on.
Yeah. Which the nice thing about that, if you're listening to this today, which I hope you are, in just a few days, she is offering a free masterclass on communication. The title of it is It's All About Communication,
Yeah.
and it's going to be a Zoom call.
Yeah, it's not going to be some webinar where you're so distant from the instructor. It's going to
And
be
they're
a
just
Zoom
giving
call
you
where she's
information. Yeah.
she's there. It's not like a pre-recorded thing. She's there.
Yeah, she's going to be giving tips and techniques and then opening it up for discussion. So this is going to be a huge value. You have to pre-register for it. So go to bit.ly, Messy Master Class Sign Up. That's it.
There we go.
Messy Master Class Sign Up. We'll probably try to drop the link in there for you.
Yeah, look in the description of wherever you're looking at this, or check out our Facebook page, and you'll figure it out.
It'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just look up her Facebook page, Messy is Wonderful. She's marketing it on there, but it will be July 15th, and then anyone that attends this, she's going to be giving away 3 30-minute free one-on-one coaching. So if you've got a ton of value off of 10 minutes, think of what you will get off of a 30-minute. That's
Oh,
amazing.
yeah.
So she is seriously a blessing to all of us, and the stuff that she talked about was just, we have a ton of things.
Yeah,
and
like we said during the intro, like I've already received enough value where I'm benefiting, from it.
The
And all it takes
communication.
is listening. I love the kind of consistent theme, I think, between this episode and last time she was on was it seems like Karen has a mindset of understanding her own mindset and understanding the mindset of the person that she's speaking with.
Right.
And if
It's
you
a two-way.
understand both how
Right.
you're feeling and how they're feeling, your ability to communicate and achieve things goes
Yeah,
way
a
up.
lot of people communicate about themselves. It's what is our needs, what are our wishes, what are our questions, what are we wanting to accomplish out of this, instead of putting it into a two-person perspective and bringing in their needs, the person that you're trying to communicate with. But I do that repeating, rephrasing kind of thing, and it kind of caught me off guard when she said, that's a peeve of hers when somebody does it, but it's when you do it wrong, when you're just doing it as and I have a friend that does that. The very last word of every sentence you say, he repeats. He just says it. And it's like, he's doing other stuff, or he'll be distracted with his phone, or, you can just see that kind of glazed look in his face. He's kind of listening.
You can tell they weren't really listening, but they intentionally listened. They could tell you're wrapping up.
Just to
say the last 1, 2, 3 words. And we've also all heard that as a pro tip at some point in time, that then it ends up just becoming a crutch because you're like, oh, I don't have to listen.
Exactly.
I can just, you said it this time. I've got this Jasonism, we call him, where I say exactly all the time. I'm trying to break it, and now she's teasing me a little bit.
I couldn't help it. That was just the perfect segue for it.
Uh-huh.
But that was because I actively listened to the way that he speaks and what he says.
She's understanding how her brain works and how my brain works. We're learning from Karen.
Right. So, yes, you definitely want to be a part of that, but communication is seriously step one, the basic foundation of any successful anything. Family, parent to child communication, employer to employee, employees to coworkers. It's just something we have to do every day, and most of us, seriously, we suck at it. I mean, there's no getting around it.
One thing she said was about how, one of the pro tips that she wanted to share, the two, was asking really good questions. And I straight up, that was humbling for me, because I've always thought of myself as being somebody that's good at asking questions and holding conversation, listening. But then she said, but I'm not going to talk about that, because that doesn't matter at all if you don't listen.
Right.
And you don't listen the right way.
Yeah.
And the way she was talking about, rephrasing what someone is talking about to show that you really do fully understand what they're talking about, instead of just repeating the last 2 or 3 words, which you could ignore the entire thing they said and just repeat the last couple words and not actually listen to them at all.
Right. So all of those reasons that we communicate that she laid out: inform, question, educating, advocating, persuading, or manipulating. The biggest one is about making those connections. And in our community, to have a great community, we have to make sure that we are connecting with everybody and having those great conversations that matter. I mean, if you're going to be in a conversation with someone anyways, think about it. 9 times out of 10, it's at least 30 minutes, right? Sometimes an hour. No, when we get together, 6 hours.
Easy.
You want to take something away from that. You don't want to walk away from it being like, I will never get that time back. That's the worst. And so be there. Be in the moment. Put the device down. I'm bad about that. I'll be the first one. I'll throw myself under the bus. I'm bad about that because I have so much stuff going on. But you can't actively listen to someone and hear what's going on with them because it's more than just what they're saying.
Yeah. And I'm not the best listener in the world. I may have cut you off. But something I've tried to do recently is, if you are having a 3-hour conversation with somebody, it's possible that some sort of an urgent message or something will happen during that time frame. Right. So what I try to do is, if I'm noticing my phone's really blowing up, just literally pausing the person I'm speaking with and saying, hey, I just want to make sure that nothing's wrong, make sure my wife's okay, check on my phone, make sure that nothing is super urgent, tell them hey, I'm checking out here for a second. And then they probably think the same thing. They probably need to check their stuff, and then you can re-engage, and you've been able to check your stuff, and you're aware of everything that's happening in your life without being distracted from the person you're speaking with.
And it's making eye contact. I'm a big, and we probably need to get a speaker on about that. I'm a big, not just so much as what people are saying, but body language. Body language is...
So if you're a body language person...
we want you on the show.
We want you on the show.
Yeah, that is one of the things. I love body language. I love picking up what's not being said by the way people are behaving. And if somebody tells you, if I'm talking to you and I'm not looking at you and I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get it. I'm not making eye contact. I'm probably not getting it. And that's probably why even at a young age, we tell our kids, look at me when I'm talking to you. Where does that come from? They're distracted and they're not hearing everything that you're saying. So body language has a huge place in this whole communication realm as well. But When we were talking a little bit ago, and I was on my phone trying to do something, and I was like, wait a second, I'm totally not hearing you.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, she's not listening. I need to wait a little bit.
Right? So it's okay to say that. And most people, if you tell them, hey, I need to make sure this isn't an emergency, will respect that you really do want to listen and hear everything they're saying, but something is dividing your attention.
Because it's kind of impossible to say, oh, I value all the people in my life and I value my time with them. And if I'm speaking to you one-on-one, but I'm completely ignoring, a friend that needs something, my wife that needs something, I can't care for you and then just totally ignore the other people in the world.
Right.
So, check out of that conversation, go back here,
and
that's how you.
Yeah. And I have actually found myself communicating a little bit differently than I used to. I would tell you, post Hurricane Michael and some of the other things that our community has gone through, my focus was a lot better when I was talking to people because I didn't have stress levels that we now all are dealing with and different things that we're taking on. I think a lot of us are multitasking a lot more than what we used to do. And that is a distraction in our minds. Our minds are, at least mine is, pumping 100 things at one time. So when I'm in a communication talk with someone, I'm not always able, even if I put everything down, to really zero in on it. It's something that I have to tell myself prior to the conversation. Okay, all of the rest of this can wait a minute. I need to really be in the moment with this person because they're important to me.
Which goes back to what Karen was saying of understanding your mindset and the mindset of the other person and knowing that they might have something super stressful going on in their lives and you need to be cognizant and aware of that.
And you don't want to miss those magical little moments. Some people will say something, they're like, did you understand that? And you might have missed, them telling you something really great.
Yeah. So we loved having Karen on the show. If you are somebody like we're talking about, you've got an innate sense of body language and listening and understanding, or some other things, if you've made something out of nothing, if you've achieved this amazing work-life balance that you believe everybody else can, and you've got pro tips on how to do that, and if you've also have come up with a unique solution to a problem happening in our community, we would love for you to be a guest on our show. Go to our Facebook page and you can sign up to be a guest on our show. Guys, thanks so much to our amazing sponsors, Vortex Spring, Aero Pest Service, Island Air Express, and Highland Finance for making this show come together. We will see you again next week.
Thanks for listening to Business Between the Lines. Join us every Sunday morning beginning at 8 on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.